let's get into this. Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to our Monday night live stream for week 11 of the 2022 fantasy football season. Of course, week 10 just concluded as the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles sustained their first loss of the season. Obviously, a very interesting way of going about that game. I can guarantee you somebody just lost their week because of Devonta Smith's fumble at the end of that game that led to a defensive touchdown for the Washington Commanders. Congrats to the Commanders. That's great and all. The primary thing that we witnessed, besides the Philadelphia Eagles really just not showing up offensively to the capacity that we would have liked to, was a complete domination of just moving the sticks from the Washington Commanders. Obviously, Brian Robinson, 26 rushing attempts, still hyper inefficient in his attempts, but the fact that they could continue to convert on third down at such a high rate is unbelievable. Not only did Brian Robinson find the end zone, but Antonio Gibson did as well. Both those guys relevant running back options going forward. But again, touchdowns are the biggest difference makers in their overall fantasy point scoreline. Either way, we're here for the next 2 hours, probably talking all things fantasy football. If you guys have any questions, be sure to go ahead and drop that into the chat. I'll go ahead and try to answer it to the best of my ability. Before we begin, again, to the bottom right of the screen, we have our waiver wire targets video from earlier today. If you guys haven't checked that out, be sure to do so. Again, that video's thumbnail specifically has Christian Watson. The video or the live stream for today has Paris Campbell. These are two of the guys that I'm really high on in terms of the wide receiver position and what kind of value they have potentially going forward. Both of them, widely available. Watson available in I think he's available in 92% of leagues on Yahoo, while on the other end, Paris Campbell's available in 82% of Yahoo leagues. So if in fact you're not in a giant league with a bunch of bench spots, you may still have an opportunity to pick them up. Also, before we begin, on the right side, the left side of the screen, we have Prize Picks. If you guys haven't checked them out yet already, there's a link down in the description. If you sign up today using promo code Andrew, picking more or less on given player statistics, whether it is the NFL, Thursday Night Football is just around the corner, of course, the NBA, you can go ahead and check that out. Use promo code Andrew, and when you sign up, you'll be given a first-time deposit match up to $100. So pretty much doubling your first deposit up to $100. Thank you. All right, let's get into this, shall we? Let's go ahead and pop open the chat here. Let me see what the heck is going on, shall we? Brian Robinson is a must start after tonight's performance. I would probably say no. I think it's definitely going to be matchup dependent. I mean, you saw that they were in a position where they wanted to continue to run the ball for the entirety of that game just to kill clock. And they did so at a pretty efficient rate, except for the running the ball, averaging 3 yards per carry is not going to cut it in all circumstances. That being said, if they're going to be in matchups where they're going to give Brian Robinson the ball 20 times, I of course want to play him. But it hasn't been for quite some time that we've seen him find the end zone. I mean, I think this was the first time in 4 weeks that he found the end zone. And not only that, the 2 weeks prior, 13 rushing attempts and 8 rushing attempts. So he obviously had a huge uptick of opportunity. Maybe that continues. Maybe it doesn't. Time will tell for him. Again, the presence of Antonio Gibson certainly does lower his overall upside. Doesn't make him any sort of a must start, though. In any capacity. Lost because A.J. Brown decided not to play. Phil, I think this is just like you're just angry. You know what I mean? Like, the guy got hurt. What do you want him to do? He got hurt. You can't blame him. He's a human. So like saying pathetic, like that's, you should just be like, wow, I got unlucky. Like, you don't gotta, don't be an ass about it. You know what I mean? But I know you, Phil. You're not like that always. So I know you're upset about it. So you're fine. Let's see here. Skull. Again, yeah, the Vikings, what a game this weekend, huh? That was an interesting one. Hey, Andrew, would you trade Kittle for Tony in a PPR scoring format? No, I would not. I'd rather have Kittle. It is significantly more difficult to find an efficient tight end play that is consistent. I understand that he had a bad performance this last week, but look at the 3 prior to that for Kittle. He was in a really good position, and I assume going forward will continue to be one of the better options at the tight end position for sure. All right, let me go ahead. Oh, it updated and it scrolled me down okay, there we go. Let's see here. Yeah, Cooper Kupp's a tough one, man. He's probably going to be out for the next 4 weeks, most likely. It's going to be definitely tough. Let's see here. Rest of season, full PPR, Lockett or Amari Cooper. Lockett or Amari Cooper. I mean, at this point, I'm probably thinking it's Lockett still, just because I trust the offense a little bit more in terms of the passing game. If Deshaun Watson returns and he's the Deshaun Watson of old, like 2019 himself, in terms of passing the ball, that it probably ends up being Amari Cooper in that last stretch of games. But considering we're in a position where we don't know what kind of Deshaun Watson we're going to see, I'd probably just pivot in the direction of just rolling with, what's his name? Tyler Lockett rest of the way. Mixon or JT for JT. I mean, at this point, I don't mind it. Again, it's just a matter of what you can anticipate to see from Jonathan Taylor in comparison to Joe Mixon. Jonathan Taylor looks like he's Jonathan Taylor, right? That's the guy we expected to, first and foremost, not only draft as the number 1 overall prospect in our fantasy leagues, but we were hoping he would do that for the entirety of the season. Unfortunately, was not in a position to do that considering the injuries and the entire mishap of, putting in Sam Ehlinger. Luckily for us, they started playing Matt Ryan, significantly helps the offense. So I don't mind Jonathan Taylor over Mixon at this point. If I had to pick one over the other, I don't feel a conviction one way or the other, to be totally honest. I think they're both going to be great rest of the way here. I had Devontae who fumbled, still won. Yeah, I mean, you got lucky then, Isaac. You got lucky. Philadelphia Eagles, what happened? I mean, yeah, they got a very interesting set of circumstances there. That one Goddard fumble obviously was a user error there by the referees. JT or ETN rest of the season, full PPR. JT or ETN? I'd probably have to look at Jonathan Taylor's fantasy playoff schedule. You know what? I'm actually curious about it. Let me pull it up. Let me see who they play in those weeks. Because I know the Jaguars have ridiculously good matchups from weeks 15 through 17. Like the Jaguars take on the Jets and the Houston Texans in week 16 and 17. But the Colts, they have Minnesota, LA Chargers, New York Giants. Yeah, I mean, he has just as good of a matchup, to be honest, because he has LA Chargers, New York Giants, week 16, 17. If Jonathan Taylor, theoretically, is himself and is going to be the Jonathan Taylor of old for the remainder of the season, right? If we're going to get back into a position where 2021 Taylor's back, it's him. He's the better guy. In my opinion, he gets, more opportunity than majority of the backs in this league. Not only that, he doesn't have to worry about Nyheim Hines in his back pocket any longer. And he's got a better offensive line than probably, I'd say, 85% of other teams in the league. Specifically in terms of running the ball. Okay, let's see here. Let's see, where was this? Full PPR Dynasty Lamb, AJ Dillon, 2023 mid first for Pitts. Oh, dude, this requires a lot more than just asking me with 12,000 question marks. This requires me to look at your full team. Like I couldn't just talk about this in a straight bubble. It's too difficult not to. You know what I mean? I took the prize pick advice with Samuel. Dude, the offensive PI because of the pick route. Dude, I was getting a little bit upset about that as well. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit of a bogus play, but it's okay. Trying to move Mark Andrews standard league. What wide receivers can I ask for? I mean, you should probably be going after wide receivers that are in the range of averaging 15 fantasy points per game or more, right? Because if your tight end's already doing that, and the rarity at which tight end exists in fantasy in itself, if you're going to go ahead and try to make an exchange, you have to bring in somebody that has just as much value, if not more, at the position. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys there that though are in that range of the top 12, like a Christian Kirk or a Tyler Lockett, and they're in the top 12 of the position. They're not guys I'm willing to move Mark Andrews for. So unless you're getting top tier talent, which is, I mean, I'm talking about top tier at this point in the season. I mean, oh man, it's tough because I don't think anybody's going to give you. I mean, they might. Maybe somebody's desperate enough for a tight end at this point. I'm looking at it in a full PPR scoring sense. As of right now, Tyreek Hill, no one's giving you those. Okay, you don't want Kupp right now. Waddle, I guess you can go after, but at that point, I think I'm just keeping Mark Andrews. CeeDee Lamb, you could probably go after, but I don't think someone's given it to you after that last performance. You don't want Lockett. You don't want Chase because there's too much inherent, risk with Chase in itself because we don't know exactly what his deal is. At this point, unless you're getting like a Lamb, Adams, those kind of guys, I think you're just keeping because when I look at Mark Andrews' overall value, specifically at what he's done this season in a full PPR format, I mean, 25, 28, 23, 23, and then the rest of the unfortunate performances are injuries as of late. So he's a 20-point machine. you kind of need something of that caliber back in exchange for it. You feel me? All right, let's see here. Let me scroll back up. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. There were a couple donations sent in. What's happening with Debo? I don't know. I got to watch that game back. I haven't had time to watch it yet. Typically, when I watch games back, guys, it's primarily like in the order in which they started throughout the day. Because it's a Sunday Night Football game, it takes that much longer for the NFL Plus app to have it uploaded and ready to go for the All 22 Vision. So I've only really just done some of the morning games and at least last Thursday's game, and of course the Germany game, and then a couple of the morning games thus far today. Would you keep Brian Robinson or Michael Carter? Should I keep Brian Robinson or Michael? I would keep them both. Why would you get rid of either of them? Michael Carter's got a really good strength of schedule throughout the month of December for the the final 3 weeks there. So yeah, I wouldn't give him up in any sort of capacity. Jeff Wilson Jr. or Ramondre rest of the season? Yeah, it's Ramondre. I know Jeff Wilson panned out really well, and that's great to see. But it's still Ramondre at that capacity. PPR traded Foreman and Palmer for Olave W. I would probably say no. I don't really trust that offense until Jameis Winston is back to being the starting quarterback. So until we get Jameis back there, I don't trust Olave very much. Kmet or Hawkinson this week? Probably just roll with Kmet, considering the absolute fire that Justin Fields continues to produce. Is Jonathan Taylor going to be a must start? Yeah, I mean, he was a must start this last week. Anytime, I mentioned this to you guys on Sunday morning, right? Or not even Sunday morning. I mentioned to you guys on Saturday, Friday. Anytime Jonathan Taylor is healthy and playing, he's starting on my team. There's no question about it. It's just a matter of, was he healthy and was he going to start? We didn't know that by Tuesday or Wednesday, but when we got closer to the end of the week and we saw those full practice designations, we were all in. It was no problem. AJ Brown, 1 catch for 7 yards, not good. I mean, tell me something more obvious, my guy. Of course it's not good. I mean, what do you want him to do? You want him to all of a sudden feel better about his hamstring and be able to be at a full capacity? Like, obviously he was, stumbling around over there. Let's see here. Cole Kmet against the Falcons or Hawkinson? Yeah, again, I'm going Cole Kmet there. Okay, Jude, we're going to get to your question in just a moment. Let me go ahead and let's see here. Those of you who sent in some donations. All right, Jude says, do you think Juju will lose targets due to Tony or not? I mean, Juju's going to probably not lose too much overall work in my mind because they don't play in the same role. Like, Kadarius Toney is primarily a slot receiver, right? So I'm actually curious. Let's go see how much Kadarius Toney played in the slot this last week. So Kadarius Toney this last week played, where the heck is his snap counts? Do they have it? They do not. Actually, they do. Okay, they do. Okay. He played. Dude, he didn't. Holy moly. He played 6% of his snaps from the slot and played 94% from out wide. I see. So maybe he does. Maybe he does start impacting there because typically, or what I specifically anticipated, was that Tony was going to be utilized in McCole Hardman's role. But there could be a chance that because Juju went out with the concussion, that they then moved him out wide. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. But my assumption is that if Juju's healthy, they're playing two different roles. They're not going to be playing the exact same wide receiver role, so that they're not going to really siphon into each other's overall, routes run potentially. Now, the matter of targets is purely based on who gets open, right? You don't get targets unless you're open. So if Kadarius Toney's just a better route runner and finds himself open in far more scenarios, then of course he's going to be in a position to where he's garnering more targets as the week progresses. But as of right now, I think if Juju's healthy, I'm not too worried about it. He's got himself a solidified starting position there. And the 3 weeks prior that we saw, what is that, week 6, 7, and 9? Those were enough, or 6, 7, and 8 were enough to prove to me that he's not going anywhere. Ridge Wagner says, would you give up ETN and Jeff Wilson Jr. for Derrick Henry? I'm set at running back. Depth, half PPR. If you're set at running back depth and you legitimate, I mean, I don't know what you mean by set at running back depth. Like, do you have really good players? Like, you got Joe Mixon and Saquon Barkley as your other running backs. If you're playing in one of those kind of leagues, then sure, let's make the trade. But other than that, my only concern is when you're giving up 2 of these running backs for 1, there's a lot of weeks left until we get to the fantasy playoffs, and there's always a potential for, some crazy stuff happening. So you always want to have depth. But again, if you're stacked at running back, Ridge, then yes, let's make the move. Shair sends in a question, says, full PPR league, trade away Kupp and Njoku for Devontae Adams and Gabe Davis. Kupp and Njoku for Devontae Adams and Gabe Davis. Yeah, at this point, you have to, right? Shair, if you're not already in a guaranteed playoff position where you can wait until Cooper Kupp recovers 4 to 5 weeks here, then yeah, you should probably be making this move. Thank you. Follow up to your question, Shair, was I also might have to add Sutton to the trade, making it Kupp, Njoku, Sutton for Devontae Adams and Gabe Davis. I have Tony and Keenan Allen as my wide receivers. Again, I think it's fine under the assumption that you're in need of a wide receiver like Devontae Adams to fill in for Cooper Kupp while he's out for the next 4 to 5 weeks. Let's say, for example, your record is currently 6-4, and yes, you may be in a better position to make your playoffs, but let's say it's only 6 teams out of 12 in your league make the playoffs. Or 4 out of your 10 teams in your league make the playoffs. You're probably going to have to you're going to have to probably trade them away. Appreciate that. Augustus says, should I trade away Jonathan Taylor and or Christian McCaffrey? I need to get running backs as replacements. Who should I shoot for? I'm 8-2. No, I wouldn't trade either of them. Why would I trade either of them? I just don't understand why you would. You got 2 of the best backs in the game. So unless there's a primary reason in terms of, hey, I got to trade Christian McCaffrey away because I literally don't have any wide receivers and I need to go in and trade him away for 2 wide receivers just to have some sort of semblance of depth, then sure. But at this point, to trade away Christian McCaffrey for running back replacements doesn't seem like something that I'm too interested in at that point. Okay. I do appreciate you guys sending those in right now. Again, for those of you who are joining us, welcome. Very interesting Monday Night Football game to conclude Week 10. Of course, there are no longer any unbeaten teams in the National Football League, so that certainly is something of interest to keep an eye on. We'll see how the Philadelphia Eagles take that loss and potentially spin it into a, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because they take on the Colts this week, right? So I'm curious to see what the Colts do against a really good team. Now, the Colts did play well, but when they play against one of the elite teams in the league, that's the pure test. Luckily, we just saw Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson roll right through that Philadelphia Eagles defense. Expect Jonathan Taylor to probably do the same, if not better. Let's see here. Pearl says, anybody else mention the Philadelphia Eagles gained a point when Heinicke took a knee? The personal foul? Wait, it's probably, because it's considered a sack, right? That's my assumption. Yeah. I don't understand. If someone's got to explain me this rule. If a quarterback takes a knee, right, whether they give themselves up, if they take a knee in the backfield, isn't that automatically like the whistle should be blown? Like, how does that penalty even happen? Like, unless the whistle's blown, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to not touch him? I understand that they hit him, right? But the intention was just to make sure that he was down. I mean, how do they know whether he tripped and he was going to get back up to throw the ball? I don't know. It's kind of tough, man. There's kind of a gray area within that trade or within that rule right now. Trade Hawkinson and Najee Harris for McLaurin and Rachaad White. I Pat Freiermuth. Here's the thing. Why are you trading for Rachaad White? That's my primary question. Do you have Leonard Fournette, Abraham? Because that in itself would kind of give me a little bit of an understanding. How do you feel about Jonathan Taylor rest of the season? Again, if it's full Jonathan Taylor, guys, he's a top 5 back, purely. Like, there's no question about it. I think the Indianapolis Colts themselves pretty much answered all the questions I had, but the primary way that they answered my question was, okay, because I had a lot of, here was my primary concern, and I had voiced this on Sunday, on Saturday, and on Friday. If the Indianapolis Colts are coming out to lose games on purpose, to then get a number 1 overall pick within the draft, then we're in trouble, right? But the fact that they came out and they started Matt Ryan after no one had any inclination that Matt Ryan was even going to start. Someone on Sunday morning asked me, is Matt Ryan going to start? And I responded literally, hey, Jeff Saturday on Monday's press conference said that Sam Ehlinger is the starting quarterback for this team. All of a sudden, here comes out Matt Ryan. That gives him such a significant boost in potential upside within an offense because when you get into those third down scenarios, you can actually throw the ball because Sam Ehlinger, it's a trap. You're not going to throw the ball as much. He's a mobile quarterback. You're going to have to run a completely different offense in order to accentuate those, skills that he has. So at this point, yeah, he's top 5. It's not even close. So many questions, but only 34 likes. Come on, people. Kevin, it's fine. It doesn't really make a difference to me. People will eventually click the like button. I just got to start answering questions, and then we'll start getting the likes going up. Let's see here. Drop Khalil Herbert for Kieran Williams. Somebody dropped Williams. At this point, I think it depends on what the heck Williams is going to do within that backfield, because the fact that he only ran the ball once, and yes, he was getting a little bit of receiving work, leads me to believe that he's kind of in that Malcolm Brown role, which at that point is not really comparable to what Darrell Henderson will receive going forward. So I'm not too convinced about making that swap just yet. I think I'd rather have Khalil Herbert on roster, unless, you know, Sean McVay is going to come out and tell me that he's going to start playing Kieran Williams at a max capacity. Trade Jonathan Taylor and Chris Godwin for Justin Jefferson. My other running backs are Jeff Wilson Jr. and DeAndre Swift. I don't know if you can afford to do that, to be totally honest, because this is a problem. I don't understand why DeAndre Swift goes from practicing fully on Friday to running the ball 6 times on Sunday. I don't get it. I will never understand the decision-making of Dan Campbell, Motor City Dan, MCDC. I will never understand it. And I want to try to understand it. I can't. So I think in your position currently, it would be tough for me to make that trade, because I don't think you can trust starting DeAndre Swift right now going into this week based on everything that we've witnessed. Would you trade Jacobs, Stevenson, and Foreman or Gibson for a receiver? I want to replace Cooper Kupp. Other receivers are St. Brown and Boyd. Okay, so St. Brown's fine. You're going to be able to survive with him. But then Boyd, again, once in fact we see the return of Jamar Chase, whenever that is, will be a little bit less relevant. If it's me, I'm looking to potentially move probably Gibson first and foremost, because again, he's splitting his backfield with Brian Robinson. So if you can get rid of Gibson first and foremost, great. Otherwise, the next man up is Foreman. I'm keeping Jacobs and Stevenson rest of the way. Appreciate it. I'm last in my league. Should I try to trade Kupp away? Yeah, you absolutely have to at this point. My question, Dylan, is how many wins do you have? And how many teams make the playoffs? Because that's the biggest question at that point. How do you feel about Tyler Higbee if Kupp misses time? Better than Cole Kmet? Cole Kmet, as of right now, is purely getting value off of touchdowns, right? So Cole Kmet's value could continue. It very well could. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's extremely unlikely that he continues to score touchdowns every single week. And when he stops scoring touchdowns, will his receiving yards and his receptions be enough of a fantasy point contribution to make him a viable play within a given week? That is going to be tough to witness and potentially theorize going forward. As of right now, I'd say that Cole Kmet's probably not going to be in that range of getting himself 100 receiving yards. He's not a Kelsey. He's not a Mark Andrews. So for right now, I'd like to have both of them on roster. I don't think I'm leaning towards one. If I'm leaning towards one over the other, it's probably Cole Kmet in a standard half PPR and Higbee in a full PPR, because I know Higbee's going to get the receptions and he's going to have value. But I don't want to have to choose between both. I'd rather have both on roster. I see the Jets on the wire, as in the defense, right? Do you think they should be valuable in Denver going forward? I also have New York Giants. Yeah, at this point, I do believe that the Jets defense is valuable enough to where if you pick them up, they will be a weekly start for you rest of the way. They are that much of an impactful defense. Is Kupp out for the season? No, he's only going to miss about, my assumption, 4 to 5 weeks here with a high ankle sprain. It's a very similar injury to what Mike Williams dealt with for the Chargers. He's obviously missed a significant amount of time, and Kupp will probably do the same. I told you to believe in Jeff Saturday. And you told me to steer clear of Ellinger. Yeah, well, Ellinger's a problem, okay? That's the thing. If it's Matt Ryan, it's a completely different conversation. We just saw, it's a different offense. The amount of times that they're going to throw the ball with Ellinger in comparison is the biggest difference, right? You can pull away so much of the pressure that is put upon the running game when defenders stack the box, when they know your quarterback cannot throw the ball. So, yeah, going forward, they're in a pretty good spot here. Thoughts on Kamara rest season? I'm worried. I really am. If it's the same opinion that I have about Olave. If Jameis Winston doesn't come in, I don't know if this offense can really sustain it, because they're down offensive linemen and they're not running the ball enough and efficiently enough to keep Kamara in the game. And I don't know what happened to Kamara, but they stopped throwing him the ball as well. I don't know. Andy Dalton got into his own head, and it's rough there. Okay, let me go ahead and let me just update straight down to the bottom so I can see some of the more recent comments. There was a couple donations sent in. Let me go ahead and address these. After Augustus, we had Jacob T said, trade Drake London for Michael Pittman trade Drake London or Michael Pittman for Tony Pollard. Yes, I would. Either of them. I don't care. At this point, I would trade both of them for Tony Pollard. I'm that convinced that Tony Pollard is the guy. And if his last two performances as the primary back of this team don't convince you as well, then I don't know what to tell you. But if I had to choose between one of the two, with Matt Ryan back, I'd much rather trade away Drake London. Much rather. Matthew Stevens sends in a question, says, I'm 5-5 currently in a standard scoring format, 16-team league. Wow, it's a big league there. My running backs are Mixon, Montgomery, and Gibson. Okay. Should I drop Montgomery or Gibby and try to pick up a free agent running back like Rachaad White, or keep my running backs? At this point, you can't drop it. Oh, man. Okay, so here's my thought process as of this moment, Matthew. Considering Mixon, you have to keep, obviously. Gibson's playing well, and Montgomery could benefit from the fact that Khalil Herbert is dealing with a hip injury. Those three guys are really tough for me to say, yeah, you have to drop one of them. Because if, in fact, your 16-team league is in a position where you cannot have more than 3 running backs on roster, and that may be the rule that you have to play within, I'd much rather just play with Montgomery, because I know for a fact that Montgomery is going to be the starter for that team. While when they come off the bye, there's still going to be Fournette in that backfield, and I think it's taking too much of a risk there trying to make the Rachaad White play in your current circumstance for your given league. Shire says, do you think Kupp will be out for the rest of the season? No. Again, it's a high ankle sprain. He avoided any sort of fracture or break. So he's out probably 4 to 5 weeks. So that would contain weeks 11, 12, 13, 14. At very best, right? 4 weeks out from now, 1 month, would leave us into week 15, potentially him starting. Now, if he's not available by then, we're in a little bit of trouble, right? Because you have to go ahead and take your week 15 matchup and try to win without him. You might get knocked out of the first round of your playoffs unless you have a bye week. So at that point, again, if you have Kupp, you're trying to make a run at the playoffs, you got to trade him now, probably to a better team that can afford to get him off your roster. I know it's tough because those guys can wait until the fantasy playoffs and probably use them against you, but the whole point is to get into the big dance in the first place, right? The kid Nick sends in a question, says, guaranteed playoffs, full PPR, 2 flex league. I traded Mixon, Higgins, and Jones for Foreman, Cooper. Mixon, Higgins for Jones, Foreman, and Cooper. I have Derrick Henry, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, Jacoby Myers, Pittman. Is this a good trade? Traded Mixon and Higgins, okay, so both Cincinnati Bengals, for Jones, Foreman, and Cooper. I'm fine with it. I don't have a problem with it in any sort of capacity. I think you might have too much running back depth, to be honest. Henry, Kenneth Walker. Well, actually, no, you have a 2 flex league. Never mind. You don't have too much depth. Your running back depth is perfect. You have 4 studs. You're good to go, man. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. That's a good trade, honestly. It actually is. All right, let's see here. Kamara or Sutton for Pierce. Kamara and Sutton for Pierce and Cooper, full PPR. Ooh, good question. At this point, with Jerry Jeudy going down, that could certainly help Sutton's value going forward. I just don't trust Russell Wilson in any sort of capacity. I think I want to give Kamara another shot because I honestly do believe that Kamara he's an elite talent, and you just have to give him upwards of 15 touches a game, and he's good to go. It's just a matter of the last couple of weeks they haven't been representing that, and he's definitely suffered because of that fact. So as of right now, I'm leaning the position that I want to keep these guys, but it's enough to where I'm considering the Pierce Cooper the Pierce Cooper pivot, because I truly do believe Sutton with a good Russell Wilson should be better than Amari Cooper, and I know for a fact Kamara is a better fantasy option than Pierce. So at this point, Wilkin, I'm just gonna hold for now. Real G Squared says, I beat the number 1 team in my league by 59 points. Thank you, Fields, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sorry, bench for Hurts for benching you. Look, hey, G Squared, the fact that you were able to go out there and have the cojones to literally bench Jalen Hurts for Justin Fields, you deserve the win, my guy. Justin Fields, back-to-back weeks of 40 fantasy points. If I'm not mistaken, Justin Fields is a top 5 quarterback right now in fantasy, right? Let me see here. The guy's breaking records literally every week. The rushing. As of right now, Justin Fields is literally the number 4 quarterback in fantasy. Literally the number 4 quarterback in fantasy. Back-to-back weeks of, 39.38 and 42.72. Back-to-back weeks of 147 plus rushing yards, 4 consecutive games of a rushing touchdown minimum. the production in which Justin Fields is doing right now, if he continues, the guy is literally going to be a 4th round pick next year. Like that's the kind of level that he's playing at. It's absolutely ridiculous. Let's see here. I have Lamar and Fields. Okay. I just lost Cooper Kupp. I'm 8-1 currently, says James. I have Jefferson and Andrews as well. Okay, so you got a pretty good looking team here. Wow, you have Kupp, Jefferson, and Andrews, huh? Should I trade away Fields and someone on my bench for someone? And if who should I? Okay, well, here's the question, James. What kind of a team have you constructed here overall? Like, did you go with a 0 RB strategy where you went Kupp, Jefferson, Andrews as your like first 3 picks? Because if I'm looking to trade away somebody, I don't know if I'm trading away Fields. I think I might trade away Lamar and rather go after somebody. Now, if you're in a position where you're like, okay, no one wants Lamar and you have to kind of hold, maybe we can trade away Fields. But if he's putting up 40 fantasy points each of the last 2 weeks, my brother, you're gonna have to bring back a top 5 running back, right? Because the contribution that Fields is putting forth, I better get a top 10 running back in return, minimum. I'm not selling him low, because otherwise I could just have him on my team. And what he does at quarterback in comparison to Lamar, he might double up Lamar's fantasy points this next week. He might literally do that. So if you're going to trade him away, you better go for top tier talent at any position that you go after. Start 2, Myers, Lazard, Pittman, Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore, I think, is purely determined on whether or not we do see Marquise Hollywood Brown active this week. I did see earlier today, which I read, that Cliff Kingsbury, it was a transcribed interview from earlier today. He did say that Marquise Hollywood Brown is close to returning. May not be this week, though. So they may have him suit up in practice, but he may not be available this week. That would keep Rondale Moore as a fantastic option primarily. Outside of that, I would probably lean towards Jakobi Meyers at that point, Nick. I have Jakobi Meyers and Palmer and Garrett Wilson. I have 2 slots open. Who should I sit this week in week 11? Again, I haven't done my research, but if I was just to give you a pick off the top of my head, who do the Chargers play this week? Let's see here. Week 11, Los Angeles Chargers play against Kansas City. And then we have Garrett Wilson taking on the Patriots. That's fine by me. And then who's the final guy in this conversation? Jakobi Meyers against the Jets. At that point, yeah, I'm probably sitting Josh Palmer. Yeah, I'm going to sit Josh Palmer there, Thank you. My guy, I had Ertz and Waller in one league. So it's looking, yeah, you're going to be in a tough spot. Komet or Moreau. Yeah, I mean, at this point, these are not bad tight ends to have. It is tragic what happened to the Ertz. Hopefully, it's not I know it's season ending, but hopefully it's not career devastating kind of injury. Waller's obviously dealing with his hamstring still on the IR. But I don't think that these two, Komet and Moreau, are bad options. I appreciate that, full. Thank you. Komet might be a solid pickup. He's absolutely a solid pickup. I mentioned him last week. I mean, the only reason I didn't mention him on today's waiver wire video is because he's rostered in 60% of Yahoo leagues. So I thought to myself, there's no way he's available, right? Because I told y'all he's playing Detroit next week. You got to have him as a waiver wire pickup to just throw in there for those of you who don't have Mark Andrews. And hopefully he's already been rostered. If not, hey, you have another opportunity to potentially go get him. Because of Cordero Patterson. I mean, look, here's the thing about Jay. All of the prospects on your team put forth effort, right? So if you lost by a point, that means anybody on your team could have had 10 more yards in one of the week. Unfortunately, it just hasn't been a thing. That is rough, though, Jay. I mean, trust me, I've lost for the amount of teams that I have this season. The fact that I haven't lost by one or less points more often, I've done that twice already this year in the 13 leagues that I play in. I've done that twice. The fact that it hasn't happened more is surprising to me because I know that in seasons past, that used to, really, what used to happen to me like every other week. It was absolutely brutal. What does it say? Injury inspiration. Da, da, da. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's I appreciate the kind words. Again, this is the thing, right? What I do via fantasy, let me explain to you guys really quickly. For those of you who are sitting out there and thinking to yourself, hey, listen, Andrew, he talks fantasy all day and that's what he does for a living. At this point, yes, I am blessed to do so, right? But it's purely a matter of finding something that you love without a doubt in your mind and you're willing to put everything on the line for. Because that's what I did. I had an office job, and I was like, you know what? I'm going all in on this. And there was nothing that was going to stop me from succeeding or finding some semblance of success. And if it failed, there was no turning back. There wasn't going back. There was no alternative option. So I put myself in a position where I had to put in all the work that I potentially could. And there's a reason why. I mean, dude, the amount of work that goes into these videos, guys, I know it may seem like there's not much, but I can assure you it is a lot of sleepless nights of staying up. I mean, literally staying up till 5 a.m, then hitting the alarm at 8 and then rolling through. But dude, I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see here. Miles Sanders sold. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the whole Eagles offense kind of sold to a capacity there, right? Trying to scroll back up. I know I saw a donation that was just sent in. Eric Patterson, thank you very much. I had a friend named Eric Patterson. Probably not the same guy, but hey. Traded Jeff Wilson for DeAndre Swift. Full PPR. Good move, question mark? I mean, hey, listen, if Jeff Wilson looked really good, man. This is what I'll say. If DeAndre Swift is going to get himself 15 rushing attempts and like 3 or 4 targets every game, then I think it's a good trade. But I don't know if I can guarantee you that that is going to be the case. That is the big issue that I have. I don't know what Dan Campbell's doing. I think, never mind. I say I don't know what he's doing. I know what he's doing. He's trying to protect DeAndre Swift. But you can only protect him for so long until he's playing football again. Like every play you put him out there, there's a risk. Now they're trying to minimize risk, but at this point, playing scared is not going to win you too many games. That being said, they won 2 in a row, so I'll just shut my mouth and just keep it moving. DeAndre Hopkins for ETN. I get ETN. I'm fine with that. Works for me. Christian Watson or Garrett Wilson. I'd probably go Garrett Wilson, to be totally honest. I like Christian Watson a lot, but I think Garrett Wilson is something special as well. Should I trade Gabe Davis, Zeke Elliott, and Josh Palmer for Mixon? Yeah, I would. I'm already guaranteed playoff spot. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'd rather have Mixon the rest of the way. Fields against the Falcons seems interesting considering Mariota is a runner as well. So they might be able to contain better than most have recently. Are you assuming that because of practice? I can assure you, at practice, Marcus Mariota is probably not scrambling very much. Because again, they're trying to protect the guy. He's got the red jersey on for a reason. Dynasty PPR trade, 12-team league. I have CD, AJ. Yeah, we talked about this earlier. There's so much. Oh, man. Finley, I'd love to sit down and rip through this question and try to mark it all out, but I think it's going to take me about 10 minutes to figure out exactly what answer to give you. So for the sake of the stream, I'm just going to keep it moving, my man. Would you trade Mike Williams for Cook? Dalvin Cook? Yes, absolutely. Not even close. Absolutely. Let's see here. Fields top 3 rest of the season? Probably, Jay. You're not wrong, if not higher at this point. Is it time to release Montgomery? No, I wouldn't say so. I understand what the incentive or the rationale for that is, but for right now, I'm not. Should I trade McCaffrey and Gabe Davis for Diggs and Waddle? Diggs and Waddle. Yeah, I would do that. I would. 8-2 in first place after battling the bottom the entire fantasy career. Been a listener for 2 years and finally able to understand what I'm. Yeah, congratulations. Hey, that's all on you, man. I'm glad to see that the success has begun to flow in for you. Let's just keep it moving. We got to capture a championship. He's God mode? Yes. Justin, you're not wrong. He literally is in God mode right now. Lamar Jackson against the Panthers or Fields against the Falcons? Yeah, we're playing Fields. It's clear to me that that's the way to go. Should I spend the rest of my fab on Christian Watson? 128 out of 150? No. There's too many weeks remaining here, Zach, to be totally honest. Zach, if you could tell me, like, oh, I'm in a 16-team league, and this is literally the only human that's left available, and somehow they're still there, I would say, okay, let's spend 100 or something like that. But I have a hard time. Goodness gracious. Whew. I knew that was coming. I had a feeling that thing was going to strike like the thunder. All right. So if we're in a position right now to where, yeah, there's too many weeks. Think about it. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's literally 7 weeks remaining of relevant play, of waiver wire pickups to be made. If you empty the clip, you will never have a chance at another waiver option. Now, I'm not saying not to spend a good margin of it. I can't, yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you to use all of it. There's no way. It's too much. Should I trade Kamara and Mostert for Dameon Pierce and Fields? Xavier, at this point, what's your quarterback look like, man? Because I'm not against it. You know what? I'm for it. In fact, I'm for it at this point. I know Kamara is really good, but Fields is starting to he's pushing like a different energy, man. He is all-time great performances in each of the last 2 weeks. Like 40 points each week. Like that's unheard of stuff. Let's see here. Chris Godwin, Cordero Patterson for Jonathan Taylor. Full PPR. Yeah, I'll take that. Give me Jonathan Taylor. Should I pick up Rondale Moore for Gabe Davis? Yeah, if you're playing in a full PPR, I think there's a little bit more incentive to do so. But again, the only issue I have with that, Dimitri, is once Hollywood Brown comes back in week 12, I think Rondale Moore's value does. Oh, you know what? There's no more Zach Ertz. Yeah, let's make the move. I'm okay with that. Let's make the swap. If you bought Jonathan Taylor cheap, congrats. I think that goes for anybody this year that let's say, for example, right? If you guys remember going back to week 4, I remember there was the first 3 weeks of the season, earlier this season, I think with Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, and Austin Eckler were all terrible. None of them were scoring touchdowns. None of them were playing well. There's a reason why we said, hey, let's go get him, right? The only difference with Jonathan Taylor is when you went after Jonathan Taylor to make an investment in him, it was knowing that they've got a brand new head coach and their quarterback is Sam Ehlinger. And the fact that we've now flipped the entire script and it's Matt Ryan and the coaching staff's actually, pretty good and they can get the job done. Yeah, that is a absolute W, and 100% congrats to anybody who felt compelled enough to make that move there. I don't know what this even means. Oh, the NFC East. You put M. The NFC East has the highest winning percentage in NFL history by a singular division, huh? That's crazy, huh? Wow. There was a perfect tie in my league this week. Really, 2 decimal points. So what's your tiebreaker? You just guys get the tie, or does the bench matter? Because I've seen leagues where bench matters. I typically don't run it that way. I just make it, if it's a tie, it's a tie. We keep it moving. The Vikings are number 1 now. I mean, the Vikings are number 1 now. No, they're not. The Vikings lost 1-on-1. What are you talking about? Vikings are not number 1. What are you talking about? The Eagles hold the tiebreaker. They won in the 1-on-1 matchup. Is Jonathan Taylor a sell high? No, I don't believe so. Listen, maybe I'm blinded by his talent, but I am truly of the belief that Jonathan Taylor is one of the best backs in the league. And I don't think it's a hot take to say that. So if he's healthy and active, I'm not getting rid of him. If he is unhealthy and his team sucks and they're going to bench him in 3 weeks, then I'm willing to sell him. There's circumstances to everything. There's context to everything. All right, a couple donations that were sent in. Let me go ahead and address these really quickly. Appreciate you guys sending those in. Andrew he says, Andrew, hope you're doing well. Thank you. Full PPR, 5 and 5, 5th place currently. Worried about Jonathan Taylor and flex, where I rotate Pittman and Olave. Sanders and Ayuk are on my bench. Who do I trade and or look for? I'm not trading Jonathan Taylor. And quite frankly, I'd like to play Sanders at your flex. I'm not too worried about him. Yes, he had a bad performance today. Whoopty. He's been great all season long. Olave's concerning. Pittman's concerning, but at least they're on a better track. Ayuk looks like he's the number 1 wide receiver of that team. Deebo Samuel was nowhere to be found in terms of the receiving game down the field, in terms of like 8 or 10 yards down the field in that range. So I'm not too worried about your scenario here. I think Pittman gets more value as the weeks progress. Obviously, I'd probably rather have Paris Campbell rest of the year if Matt Ryan's going to be the starting quarterback. But at this point, I don't think I want to move Olave. I think they will eventually make the move to Jameis Winston, and once they do, Olave will get value back. But I don't think you need to make any moves here, quite frankly. Now, if you're like, hey, I need to move Sanders and Olave, let me go get a running back. Sure, you can try to go for somebody like that, but I don't know if it's in your best interest at your current position to be making trades like that, which are going to impact the team that you. I mean, what I'm thinking right now, if you're in 5th place, you're 5 and 5. If you take 2 L's here because you don't have enough depth, because injuries happen, and you've got to survive the next 4 weeks, it's going to be tough to to make it through unless you've got super bench depth off of, a waiver pickup that you're potentially going to make here, Andrew. Seth East sends in a question, says, what's the value? Okay, what does it say? What value would you want out of Barkley and Andrews? Oh my goodness. I mean, I want the world for both those guys. Lost Cooper Kupp and really need to fill some holes. I have Etienne, Sanders, Montgomery, and Olave, London, and Rondell Moore. What value would you want for Barkley and Andrews? If I'm going to trade away Barkley at this moment, I think at very minimum, you need to, here's the thing. If you're going to trade away Barkley, you're not trading Barkley away for a running back because you don't need to. He's a top 5 running back, right? So if you're going to trade away Barkley and Andrews, really, you better be getting back top 5 players at both positions. So if you're going to trade away Andrews, I better get Kelsey back, or I better get Diggs, Jefferson, Devontae Adams. If I'm not getting that, if I'm going to the running back position, I better be getting back top tier running back talent. Derrick Henry's of the world, Christian McCaffrey's, Austin Eckler's. Otherwise, I don't, I'm not making moves there because quite frankly, I understand you're trying to fill in the hole of Cooper Kupp at this point, but your team of Barkley, Etienne, Andrews is pretty strong. Yes, you need to make some improvements at wide receiver, but maybe you can do so without moving your 2 primary studs there. Alex Ruiz says, Superflex League, would you use your waiver claim on Matt Ryan? Probably. It depends. You have Daniel Jones, you have Taylor Heinicke going forward. I have Evans, Palmer, Boyd, Tony, Duvernay, and Burks as my wide receivers. Okay, so if in fact you were going to make a move... Okay, here's my thought process, Alex. So if in fact you're in a position where you're going to need another quarterback for week 14, which you will because Taylor Heinicke is going to go on bye week soon, you're going to need Matt Ryan to play for him. And if you're going to need that victory or at least a chance to win in week 14 to make your fantasy playoffs, then I think, Matt Ryan's probably the primary choice. If I'm playing in that league and I need a quarterback and I see Matt Ryan's available on my waivers and it's a super flex, I'm making my first waiver as the quarterback. Thank you. Mario sends in a question, says, any chance you could add 3 to 4 game parlay to your show? What do you mean by that? Any chance you could add a 3 to 4 game? I don't understand what that means. Appreciate it though, Mario. Thank you. Jonathan Coble says, here for the support for the favorite FF chat. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Jonathan. Thoughts on Jeff Wilson Jr. redraft or dynasty? Jeff Wilson in a redraft format, fantastic, looking great. I mean, after watching last week's game, or wasn't last week, it was week technically now because we're in 11, week 9's game of the Miami Dolphins. It was apparent that he was the better running back on that organization. He had a lot of bursts, and he was obviously going to take over the role, and that's exactly what he did. So in a redraft format, in a really good position to be in that top 17 rest of season upside at the running back position. As for in a dynasty format, he's been in the league for a while. And it seems to me like unless you're in a dynasty format to where you're like, hey, I need to just lock in a win this season, I have a chance to winning the championship, I'm not trading for him unless I'm getting him for relatively cheap. So that's the biggest thing because we know how Kyle Shanahan's offenses have typically worked, and we know what probably Mike McDaniel will attempt to do. He'll probably draft a bunch of running backs in this upcoming draft, and when they do, it could jeopardize Jeff Wilson's value for future years, and that's why I'm already in a position where I'm like, yes, in a redraft lead, if I'm trying to just use him for this year and I'm out, great. Outside of that, I'm probably not making a move for him. Matt K says, if Keenan Allen plays, do you start him or DPJ? If Keenan Allen plays against Kansas City, I will start him this week. Yes. But that is under the assumption that he has to have a full practice at least once by the end of this week. Whether that's on Thursday or Friday, it does not matter to me. He needs to practice fully once this week. If he does not, then DPJ is the absolute automatic start because I do not want to play a limited Keenan Allen that could return only to get hurt again and then leave the game. David Banks says, I just got offered Jonathan Taylor for Darius Slayton. I accepted. That's a joke, right? I have Lenny Khalil. Wait, you're not joking. Nah, you're joking. No. I'm not gonna get. Somebody tell me if this is a joke, right? Because why would he add? I have Lenny, Herbert, Gus, Algier as my other running backs. Why would he add that unless? David, if I was a part of your league, I'm just a fair warning. If I was the commissioner of your league, I would have vetoed that trade immediately because it looks very collusionary. So you better be careful because the pitchforks are coming and they're not going to be nice. And the pitchforks, I mean, are the other teams in your league specifically. Can we drop Gallup? Yeah, absolutely. Debo panic mode has been since they got Christian McCaffrey. Yes, pretty much. Lawrence is on a bye in week 11. I have Kyler Murray, but he's hurt. Do I pick up Ryan Tannehill or Wilson? I need a dub. Ryan Tannehill versus Green Bay or Wilson versus the Vegas Raiders? I'd probably pick up and play Russell Wilson. Yeah, it's Russell Wilson for me there. Appreciate it. Any concern with A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert going forward? No. Not particularly, no. No concern for me. Again, these guys have played extremely well all season long. 1 week doesn't make a difference. He went against, who are we talking about? He went against Derwin James last week. I'm hoping to chalk it up with that. Who we talking about? Who played against Derwin James this last week? Kittle, right? Is that who we're talking about? I mean, look, we've seen other tight ends find success against the Chargers, but yeah, the fact that he only had 2 targets was a little bit alarming. Unless you're talking about Deebo Samuel. Maybe that's who you're talking about. I don't know. Because typically Derwin James is covering tight ends. Goddard is a stud. Yeah, of course he is. Definitely. Drop Curtis Samuel for Christian Watson. I would. Yeah, I don't mind that. Jaylen Warren or Pacheco week 11. Absolutely Pacheco. Let's see here. 12-team half PPR, says Emma. 2 weeks ago, I traded Jacobs, Goff, and Devonta Smith for Christian McCaffrey. Did I give up too much? I don't think so. My core of players is Josh Allen, DK, Godwin, Hollywood, Henry, and Christian. Yeah, look, here's the thing, Emma. Goff is irrelevant, right? So the fact that you gave him away is perfect because typically, if you ask 90% of the people in this chat, he's probably on the waivers in their league. So Goff is irrelevant here in a 12-team league. So great, you gave him away. Devonta Smith plus Josh Jacobs. Again, I'd much rather have McCaffrey going the rest of the way here. So I don't think you gave up too much in any sort of capacity. Who's better for the playoffs, Chubb or Mixon? They both have tough matchups. If I was to pick one that I felt more confident in, it would be Chubb. PPR, Josh Palmer or Rondale Moore? Thank you. At this point, it's probably going to be Rondale Moore because there's no Hollywood Brown this week. And even if Colt McCoy is playing, it's probably just fine. You know the crazy thing is, and it is crazy to think this, but I legitimately think that the fantasy pieces that surround Colt McCoy are just better when they surround Colt McCoy rather than Kyler Murray. Now, I'm not saying that this offense is better with Colt McCoy, even though it can be, but I'm saying that I think the fantasy pieces of Hopkins, Connor, Moore actually are just as good with Kyler Murray, which is insane to me, as they are with Colt McCoy. Let me see here. Let me scroll back up. All right, it says bye week. Pick one wide receiver, one flex. We have Jamal, we have George Pickens, we have Kadarius Toney, we have Chris Watson. At this point, Jamal Williams probably gets to start at flex, and then your wide receiver going into this given week in a full PPR scoring format is probably Rondale Moore. Yeah. Because, again, there's a potential that McCole Hardman returns. There's a potential that Jerry Jeudy not Jerry Jeudy, excuse me. Juju Smith-Schuster returns. We're going to figure this out by the time we get to Sunday, but as of right now, off the top of my head, it's Moore. But again, that's with no film watched and no research done on the given week. Is Christian Kirk underrated? Yes, he is underrated. Again, I think he's the number 7 wide receiver in fantasy in a full PPR. So is he underrated? Yes, he's still treated as an underrated wide receiver. He's been ridiculously good this year in comparison to where we thought he was going to be. Like, we knew he was going to be a top 36 option, right? But we thought, okay, maybe he's the lower end top 36. Maybe he's just as good as he was last year, going from Arizona to Jacksonville. Maybe he was going to have like 800 yards and like a handful of touchdowns. The dude has been ridiculous, man. Top 10 in both receptions and targets and yards. Top 3 in terms of receiving touchdowns at the position. I think he has 7 receiving touchdowns this year already. It's ridiculous. Johnny Not Bravo says, I traded Jamar Chase, Gabe Davis, and Hunt for Adams, Michael Carter. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a better fit for Kansas City. I think Michael Carter is a I mean, Chase and Adams, in my mind, very similar value. Trading away these two for this is fine because Michael Carter has the significantly better fantasy playoff strength of schedule there. I wouldn't be playing Hunt there. And Gabriel Davis, until he gets a consistent level of production, is not really a startable option going forward at that point. So, yeah, appreciate that. Your super chat is PPR. Yeah, I mean, that was my assumption. If it was half PPR, full PPR, doesn't really matter. I think you got the better end of the trade there with Adams. He's not on mine, bunch of Lions fans. Wait, were people saying that they had Jared Goff rostered in the league? That's interesting. Thoughts on Brian Robinson versus the Texans next week? I mean, he's got himself a pretty good position to have a great week. Listen, you guys know the business in which we talk about matchups here. Anyone who's playing against the Texans, the Chargers, the Cleveland Browns, their auto starts. The Detroit Lions, their auto starts. Even though, you know what's crazy? The Lions have stopped running backs for 3 consecutive weeks. They legitimately have, which is crazy to me. Now, I don't know if that's a matter of just Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, and those circumstances which kind of led to those overall, game plans from those offenses. But as of right now, those are the teams that you typically want to play your running backs against, and you go full throttle, no questions asked against them. So yes, we're probably playing, what's his name? Brian Robinson, absolutely against Houston this week. Nate, we're gonna get to Nick, we're gonna get to your question. I saw the word Nate in chat. I was like, what the heck? Really quickly, let's see here. Who were we at? Okay, Mike sends in a question. Mike Koch, thank you. Says, what do you think about selling Josh Allen? I tried to get Hill, Patterson, Geno, but they didn't bite. My worry is Bills will bench him during the playoffs. No. You're probably incorrect in that statement, Mike, and I'll tell you why. If you go look at the current AFC East standings, the Bills are in 3rd place within their own division. So that means, let me actually, I'm curious. Current NFL playoff picture. Let's see if NFL.com has it. Okay, here we go. So the current NFL playoff picture has the Bills as a wild card team I'm not even joking. The current NFL playoff picture has the Dolphins, Jets, Patriots, and Bills all making the playoffs. So if in fact the Bills start losing games to a capacity in which they allow teams potentially like the Chargers, Bengals, Browns, Colts to catch up, there could be a little bit of a problem there. But they obviously have a significant enough lead to where they can potentially clinch it by the time they get to the play later on in the season, specifically in the fantasy playoffs. But I don't think that's potentially going to be in the cards. If they bench Josh Allen at any point, they could lose playoff positioning. And I'm sure they want a home game. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they want to go ahead and try to still eclipse the Dolphins, and they want to try to win this division. Let's see here. But hey, if it happens, it happens. But at this point, I'm assuming that they're probably not going to be benching him. Let's see here. That kid, Nick, 2018, thank you very much. Says, considering my last matches, should I send off a mix of 2 of Pittman, Myers, and David Montgomery for a wide receiver who just sit on Pittman as right now? At this point, yeah, I'm not against the idea of sending away. Okay, let me look at your prior message here, just so I have a full context. So you have Jones, Foreman, and Cooper with. I don't think you have to make any moves. This is my thought process, Nick. Henry and Kenneth Walker, Foreman and Jones. Those are your 4 starting players. 2 running backs, 2 flex. Your starting wide receivers are Amari Cooper and probably Jacoby Myers until we can see some semblance of success from Michael Pittman within the offense. If you want to trade away Michael Pittman Jr. with David Montgomery, that's fine with me, but you'd have to bring in a wide receiver. As for who you're potentially going after, that's a question of who needs. I mean, it's tough because it's really going to be difficult to sell both those guys, David Montgomery and Michael Pittman, based on their recent performances, right? I mean, they have not been consistent in any sort of capacity. If they've been consistent, it's been consistently bad over the last couple weeks in terms of fantasy point contributions. You might be able to get away with moving them. Here's my legitimate suggestion. If I was you, I would try to go trade for Cooper Kupp or Jamar Chase. with a team that you have, trying to go get one of those stud wide. I mean, you're not going to get it from who we're talking about in specific, but that's who I want to go after. But if you're going to trade those two guys, I'm probably leaning in the idea where you go after a T. Higgins if you can get him. Who's another guy that could be of value that you could potentially get? Mike Williams. Those are the two guys that I'm looking at. T. Higgins, Mike Williams. If you're going to move David Montgomery and Michael Pittman. Maybe you get lucky and then one of these teams accepts it. Thank you. Alrighty. Let's see here. Johnny Not Bravo says, thoughts on my team currently in a 10-team league, full PPR scoring format. Lamar Jackson, Henry, Etienne, Lamb, Adams, Andrews, Godwin, Patriots defense, Raiders. I mean, I think this is a really solid team. Again, you guys heard me talk about it last week. 2 of my top 6 backs rest of the way are Henry and Etienne, and it's not changing. Lamb only just continues to impress. Devontae Adams is going to continue to be the number 1 of that offense and a significant option every single week in fantasy. Mark Andrews is a stud. Lamar Jackson on that stack is fantastic. Godwin found the end zone. The Patriots defense is one of the top 3 in the league right now in fantasy. And you get the Raiders kicker. He's probably your weakest link, to be totally honest, across the board. Because they haven't really done much as of late. Maybe you can go pick up Nick Folk. Maybe you can go and get Tyler Bass. Those are another option that maybe, if available in your league, you can go after. Otherwise, really solid roster there, Johnny Not Bravo. Jason sends in a question, says waiver wire. Okay, here we go. What do we... Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to expand this question. There we go. So, do I drop Alexander Mattison for Rachaad White, even though I have Dalvin Cook, ? I also have Elijah Mitchell, who I actually don't want to drop. Alexander Mattison, pick up Rachaad White. My question is, oh man, this is actually tough because I want to protect the insurance of Dalvin Cook going forward. Is it worth to pick up Rachaad White? Why do I have to drop either of those guys? Do you have a limit on running backs you can roster? If there's a limit on running backs you can roster, or you're just saying those are the 2 guys that you would are at the bottom of the barrel of your team, Elijah Mitchell and Alexander Mattison, I don't think I'm dropping Madison. Because if anything is to legitimately happen to Dalvin Cook, you get to replenish with a 20-point back, right? In the case of Rachaad White, yes, he adds a little bit more depth to your team. But if you're not in need of a running back there to like help you on a weekly basis as a starting option, then I'd just rather keep Alexander Mattison and ensure my piece for the rest of the season. And the thing about Rachaad White is that they're going on a bye week. There's a chance that once, in fact, Leonard Fournette comes off this bye, he's healthy from that hip injury, and we go back to this split backfield of shares where, quite frankly, neither of them are relevant outside of potentially scoring a touchdown and getting 10 fantasy points. So as of right now, I think I'd rather just protect the investment of Dalvin Cook. I know that if he goes down, Madison is an immediate 20 points, and I can't guarantee that Rachaad White could do that if you need to replace Dalvin Cook in a future week. Shair sends in a question, says David Njoku or Schultz rest of the season, PPR. It's going to be Dalton Schultz from me. Thank you. Golden sends in a question, says thoughts on holding Jamar Chase or trade him away. If you can afford to hold him, I think you have to by now, right? Because the chances are he's either coming back the likelihood is he comes back in week 12, if not week 13. Now, if you can't afford to keep him in those next 2 weeks on your bench and you need someone to help you win those next 2 weeks, then at that point you have to trade him away, Golden. Thank you. Patriot says, hey Andrew, thanks for recommending Cole Kmet on Sunday. Huge score. Question, which defense would you stash for the final stretch before the playoffs? Which defense would you stash? Okay. So let's see here. Let's look at the playoff matchup, shall we? I'm thinking immediately, who has a really good stretch of games here that could actually be like elite? I'm looking at every single 3-game schedule. The New York Jets taking on Detroit, Jacksonville, and Seattle seems like a lot of fun. Rolling out the New York Jets defense. I think that could potentially be available as well because they were just coming off the bye. Who's another defense that could be a sneaky option for that remainder of the season? No, not them. I don't like that either. I mean, I guess Kansas City could be decent. Houston, Seattle, Denver. Taking on Houston and Denver could be I think that would actually be beneficial. So the Jets, Kansas City's decent in the fantasy playoffs. Who else is decent? No, they're not okay. How about Baltimore? Who's Baltimore play against? They play against Cleveland, Atlanta, Pittsburgh. I guess that could be okay as well. As of right now, if I was to tell you to go pick up one of these defenses, it would be the Jets as a stash option there. That'd be my primary suggestion. Appreciate it. All right, let me go ahead. Let's get back into this chat. Let's see what's going on the very bottom of this list. Would you rather keep Gano or McPherson rest of the season? I'd rather have Gano, to be totally honest. I think McPherson's a fantastic kicker, but the way that the offense for the Giants functions, it is in favor of Gano for the remainder of the year, in my mind. Let me know if it's kind of a stupid question. I don't think it's a stupid question at all. Any question that has to do with fantasy is not a stupid question. Now, if you were to ask me, hey, Andrew, what's your favorite color? I'd be like, all right, what's the point now? Like that's, what are we talking about? But in terms of fantasy, yeah, I think it's a really significant question, because if Gano is going to put up 10 fantasy points in a given week, or maybe has the upside of even more in comparison to McPherson, dude, I mean, that could win you a championship easily. Like, I know that I have leagues. In the first place team, the difference which makes them the first place team is having a top tier kicker and a defense that put up 20 points each in a given week, right? Those are the huge difference makers within a given season. So yeah, I don't think it's a dumb question at all. Hey, Andrew, would you drop Montgomery and pick up Eckler's handcuff? I have Eckler, Chubb, Sanders, Patterson, Jeff Wilson, and Montgomery. Man, you have really good running backs, huh? At this point, I'm leaning towards I'm leaning towards no. Here's my thought process. If Eckler was to go down, how much value does Isaiah Spiller theoretically have? Is Isaiah Spiller going to catch the ball 6 times a game? Probably not. So in my mind, I'm thinking yes. With the running back depth that you have, you can get away with it. But do you need to do it? No, I don't think you need to. If you want to, by all means, go for it. I don't think it's necessary though, because quite frankly, even if Eckler goes down for like 1 or 2 weeks, you're probably not starting Isaiah Spiller in his absence. You're probably just starting Chubb, Jeff Wilson, Sanders, Patterson. Do I trade Fields away? Lost Juju and my team isn't that good overall? Yeah, if you absolutely. If you're in a position where Fields can provide you more value than what he presents on a weekly basis, let's say he goes back down to scoring 30 points next week. If you can go bring in 2 wide receivers that are going to put up 15 points a week, then yeah, let's go do it. Because at least I think once, in fact, Justin Fields comes back down to earth, if he does, I don't know, maybe he doesn't, at that point, you'll have a little bit of a benefit from the receivers that you've acquired there. I need another wide receiver this week. Chase and Tyreek are out. Yeah, Tyreek's got himself a bye week. Drop Wan'Dale Robinson for which one of these waiver options? Watson, Rondale Moore, Slayton, Burks, or Marshall? Here's the thing, right? If you're... Goodness gracious. I truly do think it has to be Watson. Now, there is a chance that, he doesn't have the greatest week. He's not going to go for another 30-point game. I can assure you that. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I don't want to have a blanket statement like that. Maybe he goes for another 30 points. But as of right now, I'm looking at these 3 options and thinking to myself, okay, actually not even, just the 5 options here. I don't like Marshall's upcoming schedule. I don't like how little this team throws the ball. Darius Slayton is very touchdown dependent. So it's a matter of Watson or Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore benefits from the fact that Zach Ertz is not going to be in the offense for the remainder of the season. But if I'm going after upside, ultimately, it's probably Watson, because I think there's just more potential for that upside, considering Rondale Moore is going to have to compete with James Conner, DeAndre Hopkins, and Hollywood Brown for the remainder of the season. If you're looking for a 1-week play, it's probably Rondale Moore with the better upside in a full PPR, but I think I'd just rather pick up Watson either way, just to see if I can strike gold on his rest of season value. Fitness says, I'm 9-1 because of you, but lost Cup. Should I trade for a wide receiver or keep my players and play one of them? What are your thoughts? I have Barkley, Jacobs, Pittman, Palmer, Foreman, Etienne, Mostert, Tony, and Peoples-Jones. I mean, dude, you're stacked at running back. Barkley, Jacobs, Foreman, and Etienne. Can you start all 4 of them? That's my primary question. Because if you can't start all 4 of them, I might just suggest trading one, whether it is Foreman and or Jacobs, and try to get back wide receiver help. I don't think it's a bad idea there, Fitness, to make a move and try to go get a wide receiver until, in fact, Cup comes back. And even then, you're still going to have that wide receiver on roster once Kupp comes back, and he'll be your wide receiver 2 remainder. So I'm not against it, under the assumption, again, fitness, that you're not starting all 4 running backs. Maybe you have 2 running back spots and 2 flex spots. I just saw a question that said Schultz or something. Where did it go? Schultz or Kmet PPR? Probably. Well, look, it depends. Are we talking about this week or the rest of the season? If it's rest of the season, I'd rather have Schultz. If it's this week, I don't even know who the Bears play. They play Atlanta. I'd have to go look at the matchup. That's actually a good question. I'd have to look at the matchup. Patterson, a top 10 RB choice this week against Chicago. Not top 10, no, but he's definitely in the conversation of being an RB2. Yeah, like 13 through 24. He's going to be in that range. So he's going to be a startable option for sure. Hey, Andrew, Hollywood Brown and Garrett Wilson got dropped on waivers on bye. Having trouble choosing one help. I'm going to rather just go with Hollywood Brown there in my opinion. I think there's just more upside related to the offense in general in comparison to what the Jets do. And I know Garrett Wilson's been incredible the last 2 weeks. I think I'd just rather have Hollywood there. There were a couple donations sent in. Let me go ahead and address these really quickly. We had one from Real G Squared, says, what's your favorite color? That's a good one. Actually, a good one. What's my favorite color? I think it's probably blue. It's probably blue. Is it blue? You know what? Scratch that. My favorite color is whatever this is, okay? Whatever color this is, okay? This is my favorite color. So gray, or what? I don't even know whatever this is. I don't know what Nike shirt this is, but whatever this color is. How about that? Now, it's probably some form of blue. All right. Good question. All right, let's hear. Gods sends in a question, says, I'm in a 12-team dynasty league. I have a young roster by design, not winning anything this year. Question, do I trade Kyle Pitts for a 1 and 2 in both the 2023 and 2024 season? Love Pitts, but the Atlanta offense scares me going forward. Okay, here's the thing, right? You're getting a 1 and a 2 in both years. You're getting a first-round pick and a second-round pick in both 2023 and 2024. So you're getting 4 total picks in return. That's my only clarification question. Let me know, God's in the chat. Real G Squared with the mustache. I appreciate that. Thank you. David Banks says, hey, he has Barkley, Jeff Wilson, Olave, and Last Cup, full PPR. Should I trade away Lenny and Pittman to try to get Barkley or Jeff Wilson? I'm okay with either. Obviously, I'd love to get Barkley in exchange for that, but if you only get Jeff Wilson, I'm fine with that. Sweezy says, Buddy offered me Mostert for Miles. I have Mostert. Yeah, I'd rather have Miles Sanders the rest of the way. I know Mostert's great, but Mostert's playing second fiddle. And by the way that the overall opportunities in that backfield kind of distributed themselves on Sunday, I mean, specifically, we saw Jeff Wilson Jr. finish the game with 17 rushing attempts, 5 targets, in comparison to Mostert's 8 rushing attempts and 4 targets. So we're talking about a total of 23 opportunities to 12. Now, if you get into a situation where they're not running the ball as much as they did on Sunday, I can assure you Jeff Wilson probably continues to command the rushing game and is probably still going to be the number 1 in comparison to Mostert. And Mostert's overall upside kind of disappears in relation to that. So for right now, yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, even Salvin Ahmed got himself 3 attempts for 11 rushing yards. So, yeah, I'd rather have Miles Sanders there. Should I start Pacheco or Elijah Mitchell this week? Steven, we will have that answer by tomorrow. I still got to go and do a lot of research for tonight for tomorrow's video, but by the time we get there tomorrow, you'll have a full indication as to where I'm kind of feeling. Justin Fields or over Lamar PPR? Yeah, PPR doesn't matter, but yes, I think I'd rather have Justin Fields. If I have a team right now with Lamar on it, I don't know if I have any teams with Lamar on it. I don't think I have a singular team this season with Lamar. Even though I had him as my number 3 ranked quarterback going into the year. As of right now, yes, I'd rather have Justin Fields over him. Mario says, can you please address my second super chat? Yeah, Mario, let me see if I missed it. Where did it go? I meant you pick the winning team 3 to 4 games for us. Pick the winning team. I wonder if I could actually do that accurately. Mario, we'll try that on Sunday. On Sunday, I will try to pick the full list of winners, okay? So we'll talk about every matchup on Sunday and who I think will win. I don't think it'll. I don't think I'm going to be accurate. I'm going to be totally honest. I don't think I'll be accurate, but I'll try. We'll see. Let's see here. Coast to Coast says, "Yo, Andrew, I'm in a 12-team full PPR. Trade Foreman/Debo for Henry. Foreman and Debo for Henry. Yeah, I'll do that. Give me Henry. Already have Lamar, Mixon, Walker. Yeah, 100%. Give me Henry rest of the way. Again, if you're gonna make the playoffs, my guy, that's an absolute W trade. Washington fans have vested interest in Wentz. Return due to the conditions in the trade with Indy. If he plays 70% or more games, more of the snaps in those games, Colts get a second-round pick. If he plays less, then they get a third-round pick. Yeah, I mean, Linny, great insight. Yeah, I don't expect Wentz to come back to start anyway, because if I'm not mistaken, Heineke's 3-1 with the team? What's their record? Washington Commanders. Aren't they 3-1 with Heineke? So I didn't expect. Yeah. Oh my God. They're literally they've won 4 out of the last 5. Now, one of those games was with Carson Wentz, but either way, they've won 3 out of the last 4 with Heineke, and they just dethroned currently the best team in the NFC and the best team in their division in specific. So now going forward against Houston, Atlanta, New York, I'm not even kidding. They could win all 3 of those games. So I wouldn't put it past them to just continue to roll with Heineke rest of the way. And now that you're mentioning the vested interest of the compensatory pick and whether it turns from a 3 to a 2, definitely makes a difference. Are the Rams toast? Shades, yes, they are. As a Rams fan, right? Because I support my Los Angeles teams here. Rams, Chargers. As a Rams fan, I'm ready to stamp the dead stamp on the team because they are. Should I trade away Higgins for Jamal in a PPR scoring format? How desperate are we in? How much do you need a running back? That's the question. Because if you need a running back, I think Jamal's okay. I just don't love it in a PPR format because I think Higgins is really valuable. But if you've got enough wide receiver depth, it really depends how much of a running back you need in exchange for it. Can't start CEH now. Isaac, to be honest, I'm dropping CEH. In any league that I have him in, he's gone off my team. I'm done with it. I can't. It's too much. Should I trade my number 3 waiver pick for Tony? Should I use my number 3 waiver pick for Tony? And if so, would you start him over Myers or Moore? I would not start him over Myers or man. Against the Chargers specifically, if you were going to have Juju Smith-Schuster out, again, we're not 100% certain of that. If you were going to have him out and we were going to have McCole Hardman out, I would consider it heavily. But considering we don't have an 100% indication as to whether or not that's going to be the case, I would probably rather start Myers and Moore going into this week. Again, a reminder, if you guys don't remember what Myers did against the Jets just a couple weeks back, I am of the opinion that he most likely does that again to them, as they don't really have a great slot receiving cornerback there. Let me find it. Myers in week 8, specifically against the New England Patriots, who he plays this week. 13 targets, 9 catches, 60 yards and a touchdown, 16.5 fantasy points. Even without a touchdown, still put up over 10 fantasy points. I'm of the opinion Myers is a play there. Now, as for Rondale Moore, I'm sure you guys are aware of what he's done in the last couple weeks here. The volume of targets that he continues to garner, and of course the fantasy points that are attributed with that, he's had himself 7, 8, and 9 receptions. Those are the last 3 weeks, 7, 8, and 9. Obviously the yardage, 92, 69, 94. He's got a touchdown in the last 3 weeks. In a PPR format, I have a hard time replacing either of those two with a Kadarius Toney. Now, as to whether you pick him up, I mean, I don't know if you need a wide receiver. And if you believe, Nick, that the 2 teams ahead of you are going to be using their waiver spot, or maybe the 2 teams ahead of you are not as active for waivers and you're expecting them to never use those waiver spots, then you just hold so that you can have the number 1 waiver spot, or at least number 2, and continue to move up, because there's a lot of season left. Should I trade Christian McCaffrey and Sutton for Devontae Adams and Travis Etienne? Yes, absolutely. Sam, I think I saw this question already, didn't we? Either way, Devontae Adams and Etienne, 1000% yes. Sam, did you comment this on today's earlier video? Maybe you did. I don't remember. But I thought I saw that question before. Okay, there were a couple more questions that were sent in. Let me go ahead and address them really quickly. I do appreciate you guys being here. Again, we'll probably be here for the next 24 minutes until 10 p.m. PST, and then I'm going to have to head out and start working on tomorrow's video. I appreciate that, though, guys. Joshua Delgado says, what's your outlook of James Robinson for the rest of the season, and do you think he has a potential of being a decent option for a 12-team league and a half PPR down the stretch? Yes, I do. I honestly do. The volume of opportunity that he was granted the last time we saw him, 13 rushing attempts, scored a touchdown in the receiving game. I'm assuming that Michael Carter will continue to be the primary guy in that backfield, but we know the Jets want to run the ball a bunch. There's a reason why they traded for him. So yes, he will be a decent option going forward. He's more likely a guy that's in the the RB3 conversation, in the sense that like on a weekly basis, he could be anywhere from 25 through 36. If he scores a touchdown, he moves into that range of being anywhere from 13 to 24. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, he's definitely a decent option. I'd keep him on roster. Let's see here. Fudd says, waiver, question mark. Okay, so we have a waiver question here. Christian Watson, Brian Robinson, Wando Robinson, Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton. Which one are we going after purely? Man. Here's the thing. I think that the potential that Christian Watson presents as a number one option, potentially, of an Aaron Rodgers-led offense is so high, right? The potential which you can theoretically expect to see from him is at a point in my mind that he is the most valuable potential prospect. Now, if you're looking for immediate value and you're like, Andrew, I don't care about potential, I just need fantasy points to survive, it's Paris Campbell. Purely, it's Paris Campbell. The guy with Matt Ryan is unbelievable. 15 plus fantasy points each of the last 3 games with Matt Ryan under center. So do with that what you will. It's potential versus reality. And the question is, can Christian Watson be better than 15 points? I don't think Paris Campbell probably scores a touchdown every single game for the remainder of the season. That's a given, right? So that's the difference. Paris Campbell, each of the last 3 games with Matt Ryan, has scored a touchdown. That's probably not going to be a consistent factor. So again, the potential of Watson certainly is, in my mind, a little bit higher as we progress here, under the assumption that the return of a Romeo Doubs, Randall Cobb don't impact it too much. God says, yes, 4 picks for Pitts. Didn't leave out giving Stevenson too much. Wait, what? I did leave out giving him Stevenson too. But I definitely don't trust New England running backs. I have Hall, Pierce. Okay, so we're just talking about the... Oh, wait, did you already make this trade? So you theoretically, in a dynasty format, you gave away Ramondre Stevenson and Kyle Pitts in exchange for a first-round pick in both 2023 and 2024 and a second-round pick in 2023 and 2024. I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it. I'm of the opinion that Pitts is probably going to be someone that you regret trading in the future. But that's only under the assumption that this organization actually drafts a good quarterback. And the way that they're winning games right now, they probably don't get a top 3 pick, which means that the quarterback of their future is probably not in the immediate future. But in the Dynasty League, we'll see. As of right now, again, if you're getting a pick, man, the potential of the running backs that you could potentially acquire, I mean, the receivers, if you can get Marvin Harrison Jr. next year, like, I don't care about Pitts. But the question is, how high of a pick are you going to get in that dynasty format? There are so many talented wide receivers coming out of college in the next 2 years now that at that point, I think it doesn't even matter. You'll be fine with the picks that you get. JK says, thoughts on Brian Robinson rest of season? Again, it is purely dependent on what the game script is. They dominated time of possession. They were continuously able to get first downs, which typically they haven't done all season long. Now, in these very advantageous matchups that he has in the upcoming weeks here, specifically when they take on Houston, Atlanta, New York, those next 3 weeks, they're very advantageous in terms of fantasy playoff schedule. Now, then they follow that up with New York, San Francisco, and Cleveland in the fantasy playoffs. They have relatively good matchups. Again, they're very much so touchdown dependent, and if those touchdowns aren't going to accompany a performance, it is difficult to trust either of those 2 running backs. Obviously, Antonio Gibson has a little bit more value in those sense of, hey, I have PPR upside. You know what I mean? Okay. You said you haven't made the trade yet. Okay, so you're giving away Ramondre Stevenson and Kyle Pitts. You're getting those 4 picks. And you're not winning anything this year, and you're looking towards the future. I'm of the opinion that if you're going to have a pick that's in that like top 3 of both those years, I don't mind it, because I legitimately think there's enough talent that's coming out of these next 2 years of drafts at wide receiver and running back to where you won't regret it. Now, what I mean by regretting the movement of Kyle Pitts is, once in fact we get to a position where there's no more Travis Kelce, which is down the line here, it's probably a couple years away. Kyle Pitts will probably eventually by that time be the best tight end in the league. But again, we are many years away from that point. Many years. So at that point, I'm okay making this trade. Walter says, good evening, Andrew. Love the channel. Keep up the great work. I appreciate that, Walter. Thank you very much. Should I trade away Mixon and Hurts for Christian McCaffrey and Burrow? My soul. It hurts. Trade away Jalen Hurts and Mixon for McCaffrey and Burrow. I don't think so. I think I'd rather have Jalen Hurts and Mixon, because I think Hurts is that much better than Burrow going forward. Should I trade Kamara and Ayuk for Eckler? I'm okay with that. Yes, I'm fine with that. Trade Fields for Andrews? Question mark. Full PPR. I have Lamar. Ooh, wee. Man, I don't want to make any rash decisions. Can you trade Lamar for Andrews? Thoughts? Is that a potential? Can you trade Lamar for Mark Andrews? Because, okay, even if I had to, I'm okay. Oh, man, dude, here's my issue. I don't want to trade away Justin Fields just in case this dude he takes over the league and he just tortures everything. That's my biggest concern. He could have a legendary finish here. Like, he is on pace, and he's not, like, no one can stop him. But let me see the rest of the season strength of schedule for this team. Chicago has to play up against Atlanta, New York Jets, Green Bay, all doable. He's running the ball for 140 yards a game. So, and then he goes into the playoff against Philadelphia, Buffalo, Detroit. Man, Detroit, week 17 championship game, goes for 40 points, wins the whole thing. At this point, I'd like to give away Lamar. If I had to give away Fields for Mark Andrews, if the rest of your team's a bunch of studs, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Jason says, can you address my second super chat? Yeah, I think I probably did already, but I'll go back to it. No, I didn't. Actually, I saw your name twice, and I thought it was the same question. My apologies, Jason. So Jason's second question was, in the same question, how do you feel about dropping Duvernay, then for Rachaad White? My other wide receivers are J.J. Hopkins. Yes, I'm okay with that. I'd feel much more comfortable making that pivot at that point for Rachaad White. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Let me check with the rest of your team. Yes, I'd feel more comfortable there, because I really don't want to give away Madison if you have Dalvin Cook, because we've seen it in seasons past. No matter what happens, if Dalvin Cook goes down, Alexander Madison is a 100% dependable running back that's top 12 in that given week. And again, Elijah Mitchell looks like someone that not only is a handcuff, but has upside, 18 rushing attempts of upside within a given week, and probably could take goal line carries in a certain circumstance. So for right now, yeah, I'd rather drop Duvernay, considering what you have a wide receiver with J.J. Hopkins and DK Metcalf going forward. Obviously, DK Metcalf has a bye week this week. It's fine. You could play J.J. and Hopkins. Then the following week, Hopkins is on bye. Then you swap the other way, and then you're fine. Appreciate it. Let's see here. If both healthy, will play, standard scoring for Keenan Allen or Zeke? If both are healthy and both play, I'd rather have Keenan Allen. Legitimately, in a standard league, I'd rather have Keenan Allen. It's crazy, huh? I'm that off of the Zeke train. I'm completely off. I've seen too much success from Tony Pollard to ignore it at this point. Johnny Bravo says, missed a third super chat. Where's your third one? Dude, you know what happens? When you guys send multiple, I thought I get to them because I see the name a second time or a third time, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've already addressed that. Where's yours, Johnny? Someone offered me Pierce for Godwin. They're going to give you Pierce, and they take Godwin? Give me Pierce. I'll take that. For running back depth purposes, absolutely. No, thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Can anyone explain to me why Hurts lost 9 yards on that last play? Wait. Excuse me? Logan, that's got to be a stat correction. Something's gonna, they got to fix that. There's no way he lost 9 yards on that play, right? In terms of fantasy, because it's not considered a completion, right? It's a fumble returned for a touchdown. No one had possession prior to or after Devonta Smith. Therefore, it's a completion, fumble, return to the house. It should not be lost because of the. No. Okay, here, Logan, I will tell you from personal experience. Yahoo, or sorry, not Yahoo. ESPN makes a lot of mistakes like this, and they do a lot of stat corrections. Right? Let me look at this. ESPN fantasy stat corrections. Every week they have to do stat corrections because they always mess up like this. I'm not even kidding. So let's look at this. I'm actually curious. Where is Jalen Hurts' yards? Jalen Hurts. Do me a favor, Logan. How many fantasy points did Jalen Hurts get for you in your week? Because I got to compare it to a different website just to know if you're going to get the stat correction or not. Because in my format, right, the standard 4-point per passing touchdown league, it says that Jalen Hurts got 21.8 fantasy points. I'm curious if you got the same thing, because if you did, then you're going to get screwed over. Fields or Hurts rest of the season? I think it's Fields. I mean, I really don't want it to be because I love Justin. I mean, Justin Fields is great, but I want Jalen Hurts to be the guy that could just purely outscore him, and I think he's probably going to be more consistent because of the offense that surrounds him. But I honestly think that if Fields is on this pace, like, dude, the rushing yardage that he is earning every single game is a ridiculous enough number to that by itself, he doesn't even have to throw touchdowns. He could be relevant and probably more valuable, which is crazy to me, but it is what it is. I think you misread, Andrew. Who should I target if trading for both Higgins? I did misread it. Again, I do that a lot, guys. My apologies. Who should I target if trading both Higgins and Jamal? You better be getting a pretty penny out of that, to be totally honest. If you're going to trade away Jamal, are you going for a 2-for-2 or are you going for 2-for-1? Because if you're going to bring back only one player in exchange for that, I think your best bet overall at running back is probably going after someone like Dante Foreman. But to be honest, Jamal's been just as good. So like, why are we doing that, right? So it probably has to be someone even better. Maybe you're going after guys like ETN. To be honest, try to buy him low on this last bad week, because that's what I'm immediately thinking. I want top tier talent if I'm giving away two guys that are really at this point putting up like 12 plus points a game, or will be doing such. Where are my people who won off the defensive fumble? I don't know if there are many. I don't know how many people who would have actually played Washington's defense. Gino and Tua are both out this week. Need a QB. If Marcus Mariota is available, prod, I would play him. Fields or Lamar rest season. I'm legitimately on the Fields train, guys. I'm bought in already. I am fully bought in. I have Hopkins as my only dependable receiver. Okay. I have Derrick Henry. I have Chubb. I have Walker. I have Stevenson, and I have Pierce. Should I trade for a receiver? Yes, I would trade Pierce away, if you can, for wide receiver depth. I would probably go and try to find a team in your league that is in need of a running back, first and foremost, because that's obviously what's necessary. And then see if they're willing to pass off a wide receiver in your direction, specifically one that is in pretty good standing. Like, if you're going to trade away Pierce, I don't mind getting back a Lockett or a Christian Kirk or a DK Metcalf at this point. Mike Evans. Let's see here. There's a question sent in from Sticky. Sticky, let me go ahead and read this off screen. I'm looking to trade Travis Kelce, Gabe Davis, and Swift for Debo, Saquon, and Everett. You know, I don't even... man. Okay, let's just keep going. Hoping that when Hollywood Brown comes back, I have him and Debo with Devontae Adams, and I already have Chubb and Barkley at that point. Okay. I mean, here's the thing, right? Debo's got to step up. He cannot be bum Debo anymore. If he's going to continue to put together, underwhelming performances purely based on the lack of opportunity, we might be in trouble. There's a lot of cooks in that kitchen, so it wouldn't surprise me if Debo Samuel starts to really fade off here. But considering what you have on roster with Chubb and then you get Barkley back in return, I'm okay making the move here because I know Saquon is really the biggest difference maker of all those guys. Should I sell high on Christian McCaffrey? I mean, what are you going to sell him for? Because if you're going to sell Christian McCaffrey, you better be getting back Derrick Henry or Saquon or Austin Eckler. Otherwise, I don't want him. You know what I mean? Perhaps you can get Justin Jefferson out of him. At that point, it's okay in a full PPR. I'm 4-6. Do you think I'm out of the playoffs? Rel, how many teams are in your league and how many teams make the playoffs? That's the primary question. Trade Kupp and Hurts for Burrow, Ayuk, and Patterson. 3 games left. I need wins and depth. Yeah, I'm okay with this. Again, because of your necessity for wins, I'm willing to do just about anything for it. I will take an L trade for the long run just to ensure that you can get into the big dance. You know what I mean? Why would you hold players if you know you're not going to win with them, right? So just make the trade. Should I trade away Josh Jacobs and Dameon Pierce and Greg Dulcich for Diggs and Mark Andrews? You better have a lot of running back there, CJ Jackson. If you don't have a lot of depth, I don't think you can afford to make that trade. Now, if you're going to tell me, hey, Andrew, I'm going to trade away Dameon Pierce and Josh Jacobs, I already have Joe Mixon and Ramondre, sure, let's make the deal immediately. You know, let's send it. But until you have actual depth, it's going to be tough to do that. Whose question was I looking for? I'm looking for specifically, I'm looking for 20.8 checking again now. Standard League, Week 10. Do you guys get extra bonus points? Let me check here. Yeah, it's 21.8. Did he actually get -9 yards off that play? There's no way, right? There's going to be a stat correction. You know what? I can actually cross-reference this real quick. Wait, what is this? Give me a second. I got to look at this. Okay, no, that's nothing. Let me go back to the chat. And then who was I looking for again? Okay, a couple more questions sent in there. We're going to be here for probably another like 5-10 minutes. Okay, guys? Deontay Johnson has 81 targets and 0 touchdowns in 8 games left in the regular season. It's crazy, huh? That's the difference between Kenny Pickett and Ben Roethlisberger. It purely is. It's crazy. Any worries about Butker as a dependable kicker rest of the season? You know what I'll tell you, Jay? He hasn't been dependable in a couple years now. The issue is that, unfortunately, the Kansas City Chiefs score too many touchdowns for him to be a reliable kicker. He only kicks extra points. And like you were just mentioning, he missed 2 last week. I just don't trust the offense to be able to put them into kicking field goal positions because I don't think anybody can stop their offense. So, yeah, I would pivot from him. Let's see here. Trade Connor for Debo. Sorry, Connor and Debo for Pierce? No, I'd rather have Connor and Debo rest of the way. Does Kittle have a lot of value? I believe he does. Again, if I was to value tight ends rest of the way, Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Goddard, right? Those are like the top 4 guys that always will be in that remaining top 4 for the rest of the season. So I have a hard time thinking that he doesn't have a lot of value right now in my eyes. A couple of the donations that were sent in. Did we answer Sticky's question? We did. After him was Sam Corey. Sam, thank you very much. Are you worried about McCaffrey moving forward? Am I worried about him? I wouldn't say that I'm technically worried. I know that Elijah Mitchell's presence certainly does throw a wrench in the entire upside value of Christian McCaffrey. But I'm also of the opinion that as long as he's going to get himself the first and foremost rushing attempts, and he's going to get himself a lot of receiving work like he is kind of shown to do thus far this season with the 49ers, he's going to be the goal line back. I'm not too worried about it. Obviously, my idea of him being a 25-point back is probably been heavily diminished to being like a 17 to 20 point back, but still got himself a lot of value. God says, this is my core going forward. I have Pitts. Okay, so without Pitts and Stevenson, we have Hall, Pierce, Brian Robinson, Devonta Smith. Okay, so you got pretty good options there. Also, we have 4 total 2023 firsts and Deshaun Watson coming soon. Wait, dude, you have a monster 2023 draft for the first round? Oh my goodness. Hold on, give me a second. I'm actually curious. Let's see here. What are we going to... Because if you have 4 picks, you legitimately might be in a position to where you just clean... Yeah, I'm okay with that, to be honest. Gods, I'm fine with that. Thank you. Yeah, you're going to clean up this draft, and it's a pretty good draft, to say the least. Sim says 12-team full PPR. Do I accept getting Cordero Patterson and giving Isaiah Pacheco in a full PPR? Jones is my starting running back, and B-Rob... Peoples-Jones is my starting... Wait, what? And giving Isaiah Pacheco and Peoples-Jones. My starting running backs are Brian Robinson and James Conner. How much of a value is Peoples-Jones to your roster? Because I know he's putting up like 10 to 12, 14 points a week. So that's the question. How much of a value is Peoples-Jones to you? Because I think it might be just in your best interest to hold and just let it ride with Pacheco and Peoples-Jones, because in a full PPR format, the numbers that I was reading off earlier today with Peoples-Jones being like a 10 to 12 plus point guy every week, imagine he starts scoring touchdowns, man. Like, especially with Watson coming back, it could be legit serious numbers from Peoples-Jones, which gives me a little bit of a scare considering we already know that Atlanta backfield is going to be a committee, and Isaiah is going to be the primary RB on the ground for the Chiefs in specific. Christian Santos says full PPR. Trade Lenny for Keenan Allen. I have Christian McCaffrey, Ramondre Stevenson, Tyreek Hill, Christian Kirk, Godwin. My bench is Cooks, Warren. I don't think I'm making that trade because, well, okay, here's the thing, right? Christian, if you have Ramondre and Christian McCaffrey, that's fine. You start them 1 and 2. Tyreek Hill, Christian Kirk, Godwin. Are we going to play are we going to play Lenny in the flex, or are we going to play Keenan Allen in the flex rest of the way? Theoretically, in a full PPR, I would probably feel more comfortable with Keenan Allen rest of the way. Yeah, never mind. Let's make the trade. Jeremy Cohen says, get Derrick Henry, giving away JT Foreman and Cooks full PPR. Ooh, my goodness. You better be stacked at running back. Otherwise, I don't think I can make this deal. Because I think Jonathan Taylor probably has just as much value as Derrick Henry through the fantasy playoffs. I'll tell you why. Jonathan Taylor, weeks 15 through 17, takes on Minnesota, Los Angeles, and the New York Giants. Those are really advantageous games. And yes, maybe he's not going to play against the Houston Texans in week 16 and get automatic 35 points, but that would be the point of having Foreman still on roster, who at that point has himself pretty good games as well. So unless you're completely stacked in running backs or maybe in a smaller league, like an 8-team league or something in that exchange, I don't think I'm making that move. All right, guys. Let me see. Let me look at the chat really quickly. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple more here, and then I got to go because I got to set up everything for tomorrow. Got a lot of graphics to take care of, a lot of stats to go ahead and compile, a lot of film to watch. And after all of that is taken care of, then I got to, have some shut-eye for a little bit tonight. Hey, Andrew, you advised me to accept the trade in my league, Josh Allen and Josh Jacobs for Walker and Debo. It helped me win. I'm now 6-4. Thank you so much. You traded away Josh Allen and Jacobs for Walker and Debo? Did we really talk about that? Are you sure? Wait, maybe you got Josh Allen and Jacobs, right? I don't even remember, Nick, but hey, if it helped, congratulations. I don't remember, man. The amount of questions I go through on a daily basis, much less a season, I don't recall, to be totally honest. Jonathan Taylor's a league winner. I mean, listen, that's what he was when the beginning of the season started, and I think he shouldn't change now that, obviously when he's injured, it changes, but now that he's healthy, it should be status quo. I lost Kupp. Who do I put at my wide receiver in my flex? Diggs, Donovan Peoples-Jones, or Pittman? I'm probably playing Diggs and Donovan Peoples-Jones going forward. Andrew, help. I have Evans, Trace, we have Sutton, we have Pickens, Davis, Rondell Moore, Eckler, Who do I trade for in a 10-team PPR? Who do you trade and for who? I mean, at this point, Eckler, Mixon, Pierce do not come off your roster. Terry, Evans are fine. Davis could be, Gabriel Davis can honestly be moved. Maybe even dropped, but probably not. Probably don't drop. Just keep. Are we making any moves with this team? Rayon, it is hard for me to suggest you move anything because I want to play Mixon, Eckler as your RB1 and 2. I want to play Pierce in your flex, and I want to play Evans, McLaurin as that 1 and 2. I don't think I'm making any moves there. I have, let's see. Would you trade Cup for and Lamar? Who would you trade Cup and Lamar for? Ryan, I think that's a very open-ended question to the point where I would tell you the only people in your league that are trading for Cup are guys that have already secured a playoff spot because he's probably going to be out 4 to 5 weeks. So unless you can find someone in your league that needs a quarterback and has also clinched a playoff spot, that's the only person that's probably going to take Cup or Lamar from you as a 2-4 whatever trade. So you have to go to that person, then determine what am I getting in return, and then ask me if it's a balanced trade, because I can't tell you what they have, and I can't tell you that someone's going to give you something for players that are either injured or could miss a significant amount of time there. All right, okay, here we go. A couple more questions that were sent in. We're going to address these, and then we're going to pretty much close shop here. Do appreciate you guys sending in the donations, clicking the like button down below, and of course supporting the channel throughout today's video, and as you guys typically do throughout the normal week of the season. Let's see here. Gods says, I got 2 2023 firsts and Brian Robinson by trading Waddle after week 1 and 2, and the other one was in trade involving CEH and Jameson Williams. Damn, you traded away Waddle, huh? You are a that's a spicy trade. That's what I'll tell you. How long to grow the beard? This is what I'll tell you, GK. This beard has been longer in the past. I try to keep it as tame as possible so that it's not completely out of control. But I'll tell you that I haven't shaved my beard, I'd venture to say, since 2018, 2017, 2016. I haven't shaved my face. I've lost the last 3 years of my life. I don't even know where the time went. It's gone by so fast, man. I don't know when I'm cooked. I'm having a midlife crisis here, and I'm only 27. So this is what I'll tell you. I think it's been since 2017, so it's been a while. I'll tell you that much. I've come accustomed to the facial hair. It doesn't really bother my daily experience, and it prevents me from having to, mess around with any shaving products. I don't have to spend any extra money for that kind of stuff. Donovan Peoples-Jones or Paris Campbell? It's Paris Campbell there, Giant, for sure. Should I trade Kamara for Jeff Wilson? No. Keep Kamara, Andreas. Jack says, should I trade Christian Kirk and Fournette for Kamara? I have Diggs, Hill, Olave, Lazard, Pickens with Cook, Etienne, and Patterson. Ooh, yeah, I probably make that trade, and I probably take Kamara there. But again, it's risky, but I probably do it. I am very much so someone that's willing to take the risk on that matter. What's the intro and outro music you use? Sounds awesome. It's the song's name is Double Helix. I forget the artist's name. It was a part of the YouTube copyright free list all those years ago when I started the channel. Should I trade Christian McCaffrey for Hollywood for yes, I would. Give me Amon-Ra St. Brown and give me Jonathan Taylor-Raymond immediately. Hurry. Mr. Flores, go. Jamar, what's up? Thank you very much. It says Christian Watson or Tony in the pickup standard league. I'm going to take Christian Watson there. I like Tony, but again, the eventual return of Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman into this backfield or in this receiving core will certainly kind of tame his overall upside within the offense. Only 27, yeah. Am I supposed to be older? I might look older, but genetics haven't done your bands correct, man. I mean, it just, being bald makes me look significantly older than I probably am. I'll tell you that much. It is what it is. Genetics. It's a son of a gun. PPR trade Debo and Pierce for Kirk. Yeah, I mean, dude, that's a hard trade. I don't think I'm taking it. I think I'd rather have the running back depth and the hope that Debo Samuel gets right. I'm 4-6. My team is Kyler, Etienne. Okay, so we need another quarterback already for this week because, Ravi, I don't know if Kyler's going to play. Jeff Wilson, J-Rob, Rashad White, Hopkins, Juju, Pickens. Okay, any trade suggestions? At this moment, Etienne and Jeff Wilson are primary 1 and 2. You're good to go there. J-Rob and Rashad White will develop over the next couple of weeks. We'll see where that goes. Hopkins is great. I think your biggest issue is at wide receiver 2. I like Juju when he's healthy. So if he's going to be healthy, we're fine. And there's not an issue there. But outside of that, you might want Robbie. You might want to go and take Rachaad White and go find whoever has Leonard Fournette and try to make a move here. I don't know what they have on roster, but if you're able to acquire, a flexible option that could be a guy that you can start every single week henceforth, it could be a good option to make that move. Andrew, should I trade Mixon? He has a tough rest of season schedule. I'm not too worried about his rest of season schedule because I know for a fact that he's going to get a lot of receiving work and that the offense is going to be tough to stop once, in fact, Jamar Chase comes back. Burrow's looked really good in the last couple games. So I'm not too worried about it. If you are worried about it, was it last week? A couple weeks ago, it was last week. I put out a rest of season strength of schedule video. There are some running backs that I have ahead of them that you might want to go after. Specifically, guys like Derrick Henry, first and foremost, Travis Etienne, guys like that might be able to acquire. All right, guys. I do appreciate you guys coming out, supporting the channel, but your boys got to go. I regretted trading Waddle ever since. Won't lie. Yeah, I mean, it is tough. But hey, hopefully in the upcoming draft that you have here, you could probably, retool and get some studs going forward. Who's on the... Wait, what does this say? Who's on the... I missed those segments, the Infinity Gauntlet. Listen, here's the thing. I can bring back the Infinity Gauntlet, okay? I can do it. You guys want me to bring back the Infinity Gauntlet? Great. The issue is, okay, naming 6 players that are quote-unquote hidden gems is not easy, guys. Especially when you get into the later half of the season. Hidden gems just don't come out of nowhere, right? I got to go dig for them, literally. And sometimes when I dig them up, they're still garbage. And that's always the tough part. But hey, if you guys want a hidden gems, I can bring back the gauntlet. It probably won't be called hidden gems. I'll just talk about them as like, but we'll talk about it. I got to talk to myself a little bit. I got to go over the logistics of all the graphics I'd have to go through, but we'll see. Anyway, either way, thank you guys. Debo for Odell? No. I'd rather have Debo. I know Odell has a lot of upside, but it's tough. Okay, guys. I appreciate y'all. For those of you who have sent in donations, greatly appreciate it. For those of you who take time out of your day to watch any of my content, whether it's live streams, whether it's videos throughout the week, whether it's anything, I appreciate it. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking. Thank you for supporting the channel. All that you guys do to continue to allow me to keep these very bright lights on. I just looked into the light and I got toasted off that. Outside of that, tomorrow, top 36 running backs. So if you have any questions regarding that, hopefully we'll be able to answer that with tomorrow's rankings video. Wednesday, wide receivers. Thursday, quarterback, tight end. Friday, maybe some sort of hidden gem. Must start, a little bit of wombo. Outside of that, we have a video from earlier today right here. Waiver wire week 11. Check that out if you haven't yet already. Do me a favor, click the like button on that. That would be greatly appreciated. Check out Prize Picks. Again, we made a couple entries tonight. Andrew failed again, but it's okay. We're going to get better. Those lines are tough, man. Picking more or less on some of those numbers. Andrew seems to find himself always making a mistake here and there. But hey, maybe you can be luckier. Check it out. Use promo code Andrew. Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all doing that for me. Outside of that, that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and play the Double Helix song and let it be. Appreciate y'all. Have a good night. See you. Peace.